Hi everybody, my name's Karen Holden. I'm the founder of A City Law Firm. We're a commercial firm of solicitors based in the City of London near Liverpool Street and Moorgate. Been going for 12 years. So as starting my own business, I learned a lot of things and I made a lot of mistakes. So not only do I want to give you good sound legal advice, but the idea is that my advice is commercial and it's practical. And hopefully you're learning from my mistakes to make sure that you don't have the same issues. We are a very innovative type of law firm because, as I said, we've set up our own firm, so we're entrepreneurial. We do very specialist tech. We do employment, litigation and family. But in particular, we look after startups and scale-ups and those seeking investment. The large established businesses we work with are often integrating your technology, and therefore we need to help you and guide you how you negotiate with these larger businesses and how you actually deal with that scale-up. We also know that your businesses are limited either on costs or time. Perhaps you don't have all the staffing that you want, but you will in the future. Perhaps you need some guidance on tax structuring. Maybe many of you are down the line and you actually want to now revisit the documents you already have. We want to give you friendly, approachable, commercial advice to help you along your journey so that you're a success. So this is a very whistle-stop tour on from start to finish, how you start up and make a successful business based on the legal documents and some commercial advice. This would be the initial 30 minutes conversation I'd have with you, getting to know you and your business before getting down to what legal work you actually need. If you'd like that one-on-one personal consultation, I'd love to give that to you. You just drop me an email, the details of which are below, and I'd be very happy for one of my commercial teams to give you a call. Likewise, we can send you a checklist of all the documents we think you need in place. You can go through that and audit yourselves. Then we can give you a written fee quotation and take you through it. So, the first question I would like to take you through is, what are the key legal documents that you must have in place in order to have a successful business? Some of you may have these, some of you may not want any of them. Some of you will understand the need for all of them. You may have set up with a co-founder. So in which case you need an agreement, which is a platform for you to build on. This is the conversation you have now. While you're friends, and rather doing it on a handshake, you're documenting what you want to achieve. These will be the awkward conversations, such as if one of you wants to leave or is a dispute, but also it's exciting ones about what are your objectives? How long do you want to be in this business? What kind of decisions do you both want to make together or in isolation? It's a shareholders agreement if you're directors and shareholders of a company. This is a protective, wraparound legal entity for you to put in your IP and build upon. If you both want to remain as sole traders, it will be a partnership agreement. And if, however, you both have your own legal entities, then it would be a joint venture agreement. Whichever way you do, you would take tax advice and make sure it's as sound as you can. And legally, we would then have the tough conversations, make sure it's a platform to build on, but it covers every eventuality, in particular any disputes or if one of you wants to leave. Securing your IP, register your trademark, apply for a patent if you can, have you got rights designed? All of these things are there to value and protect your IP. But it's also very important that you understand that IP can only be assigned or given in writing. So if you've outsourced some of your designs or you've got an employee doing that, let's just make sure it's contractually covered that you own it, that it passes to you, that it's contained within your entity, as that's your brand, your goodwill, your collateral. That's the part of your company that costs a lot of money to develop and is going to be your value. Let's make sure that your outsourcer, for example, cannot hold you to ransom, and it's only when you pay his final bill that you then acquire your own IP. If a dispute arises, you don't want to have that IP sat there in escrow. Whether you're a service provider, you're selling a product, you're business to business, or you're to a consumer, you have to have terms and conditions. You have to understand the legislation. You have to understand consumer rights. Have you got clear guidance on payment terms and cancellations? Have you covered yourself just in case you can't hit all of your targets or deliver on time? You don't want to be in breach of the agreement. What if you need to renegotiate? Are there any caveats there that you need to look at? Now, in these unfortunate times, we never planned for the lockdown. So a lot of people are now revisiting their contracts to see, can they renegotiate? Can they get out on the cancellation clauses? Will their insurance cover their contracts? Will their force majeure clause cover them? Because this is almost like an act of God. And some people are finding that their contracts were not robust enough. So you want to preserve your relationships, you want to obviously get paid and you want to deliver, but there are going to be extenuating circumstances. There are going to be regular commercial issues. to make sure your terms and conditions are understood, are compliant for your business, and are practically applicable and visual by everybody. Now, many of you may have some standard template website terms and conditions, cookie policies and privacy, but are they bespoke and robust enough for your company? Have you covered everything off carefully? Ultimately, if people are buying from you online or reading your advice online, you need to be very careful it's up to date, that you have access to all of the right legislation. If you do make a mistake or something is out of date, your website terms and conditions need to protect you. Now, we've all heard about the cyber hacking of British Airways, EasyJet, and some of the large established businesses. It's caused so much disruption and probably concern for customers and staff alike. But it's not just the large companies that are actually suffering. Small businesses don't have the right IT and virus support. Some people don't have any policies. And you just think of the confidential information you host, your bank details, your client bank details. Have you got proper cybersecurity insurance, IT systems, but more importantly, policies? Now, these policies not only say to your clients, this is what you can and can't do, but it's also embracing your team. So your staff know what their liabilities are, what their responsibilities are, and it also embraces them. If you see something suspicious, report it. Don't be frightened of coming under scrutiny from your employer. Help us, help our clients. It's a matter of juggling, being secure and protecting yourself, having the right enforcement and monitor proceedings to jump in quick, intervene and sort it out, having everybody understand them, whether it's clients and staff, so they can all work together to identify risks and jump in. And it's exactly the same with GDPR, data protection. Make sure your staff and your clients understand your policies, make sure you're compliant, and make sure you're clear. And more importantly, is it practical? Don't get a 2,000-page document if you can't apply it, or people can't find it. Now, many of you will be shareholders, you'll set up your own business, and you may employ fellow directors. You may have non-executive directors. Many people get consultancy agreements, they get employment contracts, they forget about themselves. Directors need a director's service level agreement. Yes, it does give standard written terms about annual leave and salaries, but it's also very important that you have restrictive covenants. So a director can't just leave, set up in competition. Perhaps they own shares. You want them to have to give those shares back to you if they're going to move on to a competitor. You also want to make sure confidentiality is all secure between you as directors, because you'll know a lot about each other in the business. But also things like, for example, what if one does pass away? What will happen to his shares? That could be given by the shareholders agreement, but it should also be mirrored in the directors agreement. What if there's a dispute? The disciplinary proceedings should apply to the director, but you also should upload with warranties, guarantees, promises to make sure they're not tying the company down to contracts you don't want. It's also clear what responsibilities they have. Perhaps you want a board meeting for you to all unanimously agree a decision, rather than one director having the power to do that. All of these things need to be fleshed out clearly between you and documented in a service level agreement. But I've also touched on employees. We'll come on to this a bit later, but employees, they are the lifeblood of any company. They are what need to be motivated, they need to be retained, they need to be challenged, all of these things. However, they also bear all your confidential information. They know all your clients. So you need really robust confidentiality agreements with them, and again, restrictive covenants. So make sure you've got an employment contract in place. If you do have a lot of staff, I'd also suggest you follow up that with policies like a staff handbook. So remote working at the moment is very key. So they understand their data protection situation. They understand the equipment and their use. Perhaps they need a working from home devices own equipment, flexible working policy, disciplinary policies. All these things are how you govern, how you interact with your team. It gives them transparency, clear goals to keep up with. If something goes wrong, there's a process to follow, and it protects you as an employer that you have done everything right. One of the things I do say to many people is get trusted advisors very early. If you get a good accountant, they save you money. You get good lawyers, you've got the protection in place for your documents. If you've got a good bank manager, you can secure finance. You've got a good investment broker, and so forth. Find people that you trust. They have to be experienced, they have to be specialists, but more importantly, they have to understand you and your business. I can tell you anything with regards to the law, but what applies to you and your business, what risk appetite you have, how you want to do things is what I need to understand. So do not forget, you need to interview your advisors to make sure they're the sort of person you can pick up the phone to, have a candid conversation, and help guide you through the process. For me as a lawyer, I want to have a strategy with you from start to finish. So what's your end game? When do you want to exit? Do you want to sell? Do you want to merge? Do you want to organically grow? I'll help you start up, scale up, seek investment, exit and sale. I will work through the whole journey with you. I advise you to get a tax advisor to make the whole structure tax efficient. Bookkeeping is one thing. This will be your receipts that you file at the end of the year. But a good tax advisor will structure you in a way that saves you money. When you get investment, it saves you money. When you sell, it saves you money. These can never be underestimated. The cost you pay up front, you get far back later on. Make sure everybody gives you commercial, practical, sensible advice. If it's all legal jargon or it's all high-level calculations you don't understand, walk away. You don't have to understand the law, but you have to understand what I'm telling you. You are the business owner, and I need to know that you trust me, you understand me, and you're listening to me by understanding commercially that it's right for you. It's always good to get options, understand the pros and cons, but having someone sit on the fence all the time and make you make the decision is very difficult. I will give you 1, 2, and 3 options. I will tell you the pros and cons, but I will probably listen to you and guide you, which I think is right for you. I'm hoping to build you a platform. Here's a legal document, here's a structure, we build it together. We revisit it regularly to make sure it fits with you month on month, year on year. If a dispute arises, I'll use that document to protect you, to be clear to everybody what you intended, and hopefully resolve and prevent that from going to court. If you want investment, we can show an investor that you've got all your due diligence before you, you're concise, jotted together, it's all there just for you. And if a shareholder or director wants to leave, no problem. We've worked out the mechanism for it, we've got it all documented, the company has a mechanism for valuation, it could all be done hopefully very smoothly, but if not, I'm there to help guide you through that. Choosing the right people. So now hopefully you've chosen the right founders, you've got the right investors, you've got the right staff. But what if you can't afford thousands of employees, but you need them to develop your product or technology? Well, straightforward employees is one thing, but you can also outsource to third-party companies. There's a lot of people that will develop your tech, or even large companies that will send in tech as and when you need it, or outsourcing your accounts or outsourcing your legal. Subcontractors are a good way to do. It's for a fixed period of time, it's for a particular product. Perhaps it's on a daily basis. Therefore, if you can't afford it one day, you don't need it. If there's a problem, you can terminate the contract without being fettered with all of the employment rights that are there. Consultants, they work on a commission only, again, day by day, or they only get paid when they actually generate money, such as in sales. All of these need a clear contract for confidentiality and everything else, which I'll move over to the right. You need restrictive covenants to make sure they can't go and work for your competitors. They can't poach your clients or staff. They can't take your confidential information and use it. That they understand your data protection policies so they don't put you at the forefront of any complaints. You also need to make sure that you're governing them with your policies about how you want them to work at home, even if it's standard days and hours or whether it's on their own devices or health and safety. Protects you because everybody's on the same basis. And again, as I touched on before, the IP they develop for you is yours. The IP remains yours no matter what, whether you paid them or not, whether dispute or not, it's your IP. They're the sort of things I'd expect to see in your employment contract, your outsources contract, your subcontractor, and your consultancy contract. Now, a lot of people can't afford to pay hundreds of £1,000s to their employees to start with, but they want experienced, mature staff that have these specialist skills. So maybe you could offer them a base commission or salary, but offer them other options. Now you have share incentive schemes, whereby they're self-employed people, but they will eventually acquire shares in your company and get dividend payments if they work with you long enough for a certain period, or if the company hits certain targets. Perhaps they're staff and you offer an EMI, which is a government scheme backed by the government for you to give staff your options slowly over a period of time. And again, that's tax efficient. Always take tax advice if you're going to offer anything like these. Sorry, technical hit there. Okay, so if you are going to have self-employed people, make sure you understand IR35 rules in that they genuinely have to be self-employed people, that you haven't got a de facto employee arrangement, such as you're governing their hours, their annual leave, their uniform. Be careful you don't fall into that trap. It was going to come in this year and it's been postponed due to current circumstances, but just understand those rules. Again, make sure for employees you understand you have to pay pensions and national insurance, and obviously you're then going to be compliant with employment rights and regulations, and you need to be on top of those. There are other ways of actually incentivising staff rather than just commission and money. So the EMI is something I touched on before, which is a government scheme. It's like a written contract by you to them. You govern all the terms. You can decide how many shares they get, what value those shares are, who is eligible, when they vest and payments are made, and if they leave, they have to give them back. Ultimately, you're in control of this, but there's an incentive here because they'll want to stay working with you. If they've worked with you for 3 years and leave and lose their shares, then it's an incentive to stay. It's also like a partnership. The better the business done, the higher the turnover. It's not just the founders making money, but they themselves are increasing their own share value. So again, productivity should be encouraged. These are things that you should be thinking about for tax efficiency, for added benefits, because actually it wouldn't cost you anything until a certain trigger point, perhaps on investment, perhaps on sale. So actually it's all very much win-win for an employer. Then there are other things like employee benefits. It may seem ludicrous right now while businesses are surviving the lockdown to think about paying extra money out for benefits, but think about it. Absenteeism costs money. Recruitment and retraining costs money. If you can retain your talent pool, make them be productive from home and not have a backlog of NHS operations and waiting lists to go into for treatment, you are going to benefit. So perhaps paying for private healthcare so the sickness is lower, perhaps having counselling and wellbeing open lines for them to address their return to work will help you. Ultimately, giving them incentives such as this, it makes them think twice about leaving. Moving for an extra £10 an hour is one thing, but leaving a private healthcare system, a really good pension, things where the employers show real commitment to them, makes it more difficult to leave, and again helps you retain that ever important talent pool. Now, I was asked at a presentation recently, thank you for telling us what you can do and what we need. What mistakes do I often come across that people do? So I kind of thought of a little bit of a list, but more important, I'd say we all make mistakes. The most important thing is you pick yourself up, you dust yourself off and carry on, but you have to learn from those mistakes. And I have a really cheesy saying, but if you are not making mistakes, you are not innovating. So, agreeing by the handshake. My best friend, husband and wife, we don't need a shareholders agreement. I've got this really big contract. He's a really good friend for years. I don't need a contract. The problem is if it unravels, there's no proof of that actual term and condition and the relationship that you agreed at the start. If there's a problem, I have nothing to go to court and base your decisions upon, your intentions upon. It gets messy, it gets complicated. Have legal documentation. It makes it clear what you both expect and want. It helps if there's a problem in the future to resolve. And worst case scenario, it goes to court, you have evidence of what you intended. One of the other big things that people mistake is cash flow. Don't extend too much credit to your clients. You are not a bank. You're a growing business. Of course you want to get the work here, offer discounts, do what you can to incentivize people to use you over your competitors. But if you extend too much credit, it could be a crisis for your company. And remember, you've put your processes in place, you've got terms and conditions, you've got invoice terms. Do not fetter those. Do not move away from them because it's very easy once you give one discount for it to come time and time again. Do not procrastinate. Follow your own processes and keep your cash flow coming. Cash flow will always be king for you as a business. I also find that people don't take professional advice early on. So a good accountant can save you money in the long run with tax structuring and tax efficiency. Yes, you have to pay a bit of money up front, but they will save you so much more in the long run. A good lawyer will give you a robust document to protect you in the future, will help you choose the right partners and iron out problems with due diligence. I know paying for advisors up front seems a lot of money, but believe me, in a few years' time when your documents are wrong, there's a dispute, when you look back retrospectively, you'll have wished you'd spent that money and invested in that important aspect. Accepting your weaknesses. Not everyone's a lawyer or an accountant. Not everyone's a human resources manager. Do what you do best. Run the part of the business that you know is your strength and find other people to help you, whether it's an employee, whether it's an advisor. There are other people out there with those strengths that you can rely on. Don't try and do everything. You cannot possibly run everything yourself because your business cannot be a success and it cannot be growing if you're distracted by doing stuff you don't want to do or you're no good at it or you don't like it. Believe me, when I was my own accountant, it was terrible. Tried to be my own receptionist, my own IT specialist. All of a sudden I realised, you know what, concentrate on getting the clients in and doing the legal work. Get other people who know what they're doing to do that part. Makes sense to pay them, to get it right, and to fail completely on everything. And also, I guess, when you're setting up a business, you run, you get your clients, you do your marketing, you do your web business. I get that. I'm running to make this business a success. And I never stopped to look back. What have I achieved? What worked? What didn't? Do I need to change my business plan? Do I need to change my model? You need to reflect on what you're doing. As I said, learning from your mistakes, but also learning from all the good things that you've done. So don't forget to take time out for you to reflect on your business, the model, on how it's working and not working, and readjust it. Revisit your commercial documents, revisit your business plan. Constantly, you're going to be changing, and it is hard. It is very difficult to reflect and to stop, but sometimes take yourself out of the business. I also have to say, a lot of people say, show me the money. I've got an investor. I've sold the business for this amount of money. I'm working with this amazing director that's got 50 years experience. That's all wonderful. I will help you with that relationship. I'll help you do the documents, but it's not just how they dazzle you. Are they right for you? Do they understand your business? Are their business needs aligned with you? Some people have very different agendas, and you have to have those difficult conversations now. If something goes wrong and you need more money, can you pick up the phone, grab a beer with them in the pub and say, look, this didn't work, we need more money? Can you trust them? Can you rely on them? Don't forget, you have to do your due diligence and interview your co-founders, your investors, because they're coming into your life and your business for a very long time. So make sure you're happy with who they are, what they want, and that it works for you. So how would you choose a lawyer? So someone asked me, how does the fees work? How do we manage a budget? So I think it's all about trust, understanding, and transparency. Do I understand your business, whether it's because it's very niche technology? Is it because it's a rail industry, very, very particular? Is it because that you're growing so quickly and exponentially? Is it because you are between America and India and the UK? Do I get your business? More importantly, do I get you? Do I know what you want from this? Are you rushing to sell in 3 years? Do you want to organically grow it? Do you want to achieve a non-profit equality system? What is it about you and the company that I need to know so that you trust me, that you understand I'm going on the journey with you? I don't want to sit on the fence. I will always give you options, the pros and cons, but I want to commercially guide you with what's right for you. You can ignore my advice and I will still support you. You can get it wrong. I will pick up the pieces with you and support you. But my job is to give you all the information, make it clear and understandable, and for us to do it together. Am I prepared to put it in writing, what I'm doing for you and how much it's going to cost? There's no ifs and buts. You know exactly what you're getting and how much it's going to cost you. That's very important to me. I set up 12 years ago to offer a very approachable legal service to a company. So you knew exactly what you were getting, that you trusted us, you had faith in us, and it only comes with transparency of fees. So for commercial, we'll give you initial consultation to get to know you, to get to know us, to make sure it's going to work. Then we'll give you fixed fees. So we'll send you a checklist of all of our prices. Yes, of course, they may vary if it's very protracted or very complicated, but it'll be up front and say, look, this is the guide. Let's work together through it. And then I will confirm 100% before it's incurred what that price is. If you want to do 3 or 4 or 6 different pieces of work, we can agree a monthly plan. You can spread those costs over a certain period of time to ease your budget. Perhaps you want to pay me everything up front and I can give you a 10% discount. You're helping my cash flow. I'm going to turn things around quickly. We both win. Perhaps you want regular calls and meetings with me just to check things, just to check that how things are going in, ask the odd piece of questions here, perhaps have a quick look at a document, go on a monthly retainer, pay a set amount every month. That's your documents, revisions, calls, you know exactly what you're paying. And we can review that really regularly, very flexible. We're small enough and agile enough in the marketplace to work with you, to adapt with you and go through all of these things. But we are very specialist. We can do AI, we can do drones, we can do blockchain, we do health tech, we get people investment ready, we do crowdfunding, we do equity and debt financing. And we also work with very large established businesses who I said will integrate your technology. So we know how to negotiate their fees, negotiate their contracts and terms, and protect and support you. We can do anything from somebody who's looking for £20,000 seed money to those scaling up average 1 to 2 million, to our last deal was a £70 million buyout. We have companies from Dubai, from Saudi, from Cyprus, from offshore structures such as Gibraltar and Guernsey, from Russia. We understand that every business and person is different. There's going to be certain levels of tax advice needed, technology. We're not frightened of anything, but we will tell you if we don't know. But we will help you find somebody that does. So we're here to help you. Here's my contact details. Please feel free to email me for any further information. I can send you a checklist of all the startup documents I suggest you start with. You can speak to my client manager to arrange a consultation with our commercial team. You can ask them for bespoke information, and hopefully we can provide that. Like I said, I've been doing this for 12 years on myself, as well as being previously an employee for other firms. So not only do I offer sound legal advice with a lot of experience, such the grey hairs, but I've made those mistakes. I've understood what's a VAT figure. How do I get this IT working without an IT system? How do I know that this person's right for me? Employing people, you never get it right the first time. There's a lot of things that will happen on your journey. Never be afraid to ask for help, and never ever think you're going to get it perfect. Believe me, we never do. Look, I hope this whistle top tour has been useful. Anything you want to ask, please just pick up the phone or drop me an email. Look, guys, keep innovating, and I really wish you well on your business. Take care.